Hello everyone, welcome back to the Gospel Geek. It's great to be back after having taken a couple of weeks off. You know, it's interesting to me that oftentimes fans kind of have these love-hate relationships with the writers and authors and screenwriters of their favorite things. On the one hand, these are the people that bring us everything that we love about whatever it is, be it Marvel or Star Wars or Doctor Who, whatever. But they're also the people that bring us the most pain. They kill off our favorite people. They write bad plots sometimes. They leave plot holes. And they can be quite frustrating. The authors and producers and directors see to be these people that have infinite power and total control, and there's nothing most of the time that we can do about it. And so there's this distance between us and them, and then there's this strained feelings towards these people who feel like they can completely change the course of our lives in some ways without us even getting close to them and to who they are. We can often feel this way about God as well. It's easy, I think, for us to see God as this cosmic playwright. The director and writer and producer of this drama of life that we live in. He has absolute control and decides what happens when, and sometimes we feel that he takes away the people that we care about most, or that the plot isn't quite what we would like it to be. That there are some holes that just don't quite make sense. And where is this writer but somewhere far away where we can't touch or reach him? We can communicate to them just as we can with authors in our world and send letters, and there's sometimes input is appreciated or received. But the amount of control and the amount of intimacy we have with those people is often very little. Some of the most well-praised writers and story directors are those that fans know are looking out for fans and have them in mind, who are taking care of them just as much as they are taking care of their wallets. And yet this praised quality of familiarity and sensitivity is one of the same things that sets apart our God. Because however it may seem, the God of those who follow Christ is not someone who is simply far off. To be sure, God is greater beyond our understanding and comprehension, and He most assuredly is the one in control of the story that we live, which should come as a comfort so that there is an author who is taking care with each stroke of the pen to tell a story that is not ultimately a story of destruction, but a story of redemption. But most amazingly, I think, is something that comes near the middle of the story that is being lived out. There are some writers and producers, instances where the creators and owners of content put themselves into their story. Certainly some of the most famous is the cameos of Marvel genius, the founder and owner of the company, Stan Lee, who appears in a cameo in all of the modern Marvel movies. And similarly, in BBC's Sherlock, the lead writer, Mark Gatiss, plays himself a character, Mycroft Holmes, in the television series. And there are all sorts of theories about how else writers and content creators put themselves into this story. Even Shakespeare is rumored to have written himself into his plays. In fact, there are some theories that the gospel writer Mark wrote himself as a character into the gospel story, symbolically. But even more significantly than that, God takes an even greater step towards his people. Hebrews describes him as the author and perfecter of faith. But something amazing happened. God wrote himself into the story. Paul describes it beautifully in Philippians chapter 2, saying that Jesus Christ, who although was in very nature God, did not consider this something to be exploited and used to his advantage. So rather he emptied himself, pouring himself out for all of us. He took on the very nature of a slave and was found in appearance and form as a man. And being found as such, he was obedient to such an extreme that he even willingly died. And that, a death on the cross, that is the God that we can choose to follow. The God who isn't content just to control the narrative, so to speak, but a God who wants to be with people so intensely that he would bring himself into the story. Not only as one of the players on the stage, but if, in fact, the greatest and chief of all the actors. God brings himself into this world that he created to participate and be a part of the redemptive story that he has designed for all of creation. And so it is in this way that we have an opportunity to take a step closer to the one who has authored the story of our lives, who began in the beginning with a word of creation and will continue with a word of recreation, rebirth, and new life, but not as some executive screenwriter with consultants in a closed door, but one who is intimately familiar with the life that we live and the experience that we have. Scriptures say he is able to sympathize with us because he became us, that we may draw near to him and he may draw near to us, and fulfill the promise of God that he will be our God and we will be his people. And something like that captures my imagination. So as you go throughout your week, I would encourage you to look to see the places in which God has brought himself into your story, to be a part of it with you. And my prayer for you is that you would be surrounded by the presence and the peace of God, and his blessings and mercies would follow you throughout the rest of the week. See you all later.